All right, so we are officially live now with Jade Jonhson, the money expert. So when I was reading your story on your blog, I think it's very intriguing to see how, a lot of college students are thinking that college is dead because, there's so much money nowadays just to study a 4-year program and then get a job, right? Maybe a job that they don't want exactly. But I still think that it's not right to demonize college because you can still get a lot of value from it. Putting that aside, just because you go into college, you should know a couple of things. Of course, getting your scholarship, saving as much money as possible. And in your case, you apply for an ROTC Army scholarship, right? And can you just tell us like what that is and kind of how you got that idea of, getting self-funded through that
Yeah,
scholarship?
sure. So I actually did JROTC in high school, all 4 years, and I absolutely loved it. I had such a passion for the structure that it gave me and the discipline, and it really helped me a lot and molded me as a young adult, and I love that. So going into college, I knew that I wanted to have ROTC in my life still, and I heard about the ROTC scholarship, which is where you could be a 3-year winner or a 4-year winner. And I went for the national scholarship, so this is what this applies for. But basically, it is either full tuition or room and board, whichever is like more pricey, that's the one you're going to pick. And it applied for any school that I got accepted to. So I got accepted to a lot of the schools in Florida, but I really wanted to go to the University of Miami because, one, it's a private school. It's definitely one of the top ones in Florida. They have a great business program. And I'm actually from Naples, so Miami is less than 2 hours away, and I'm very close with my family. So that's why I wanted to come here. So I just applied for the national scholarship. I had to have a lot of recommendations, good grades. They wanted to see what extracurricular activities I did in high school. And I did all of that, and luckily I won. So that meant that I had a full ride scholarship to UM. So that was a pretty sweet deal because it's over $212,000, my whole education. So I'm getting that all for free. And then UM also has a pretty sweet deal where it offers you a percentage back on tuition for room and board. So even though that's not a part of the scholarship, I actually get about $10,000 from the school every semester just from that percent back, and then some other scholarships that I have. So it's a pretty awesome deal. I do have to do an 8-year commitment, so I can do that in active duty or the Army Reserves. So I'm actually wanting to do the Army Reserves. I'm hoping that I can branch into the finance corps so that I can really like co-align with what I'm already doing in my personal life.
So after you graduate, do you still have to do any services or still under contract for the Army?
Yes, I have to do 8 years.
Okay, 8 years total. So that's the full national scholarship, right, that you mentioned,
Yes.
compared to the 3 and 4-year one.
Yeah.
So even before, sorry, are you going to say?
Because the 3-year, it would pay for 3 years of school, and then I got the 4-year, so that's why I have a full ride.
Oh, okay. Now, even before going into college, you had a good perception of money. So, and thinking your blog, you mentioned that when you're in 2nd grade, you kind of sold household miscellaneous items, and your mother taught you about like profits and money, right? So that gave you
Yeah.
a good foundation of what money is about and, your personal finances.
Yeah, I guess you can say I've always been passionate about entrepreneurship and making money because I did things like that. Like that was the youngest age that I was when I started to like try and make money. I would sell household items. I remember selling somebody batteries, like AA batteries. I don't know how I pushed it or what
Used
the pitch
batteries?
was. Yeah, I think so. Like, I don't know, probably.
No juice left?
And they totally bought it. I would literally bring anything that I could find. My mom has a lot of like miscellaneous drawers in the house, and I would just go through, see what I thought was cool. I'd bring it in a big Ziploc bag. And at the end of school, they always had like the line where you would wait for your parents to come pick you up. So I would just go walk down and be like, hey, like I have this. And people would pay me, and it was a great little thing. I also would charge my parents to give them massages, like hand massages, foot massages. I also bought one of those home spas that you can buy from Walmart or Amazon, the foot spas where you can fill it up with water and then it like massages and does the bubbles and all the fancy good stuff. I bought one of those and charged my parents like $10 for every use.
Sheesh.
So stuff like that. I think I also had like a t-shirt business in middle school where I would iron on like lettering and stickers, whatever you wanted it to say. I charged per letter, and I would usually get about $20 per shirt. So I had that going on. I've always just done different things to make money because it just seems, I don't know, it's just a passion of mine.
I was gonna say, if there are any kids like in elementary school listening to this, I think it's the best time to like start making money to like selling stuff to your classmates, because I always feel like as you're in elementary school, you have like no concept of money. And the reason why I say that is because I used to be a camp counselor to like elementary school kids, right? And you know, the ice cream truck would come and literally it'd be like, say $3 for an ice cream. And some kids would just give them like $7 and just walk away because they don't know what the change is going to be. And they just want the ice cream. And
Yeah.
they're so susceptible to like, you know, being sold to. If you literally just go walk into your class with this like lollipops, you know, you can just sell that and make some money to start your entrepreneurial venture.
Exactly. Or like candy bars or something.
Yeah.
Buy like hotcakes.
So is it fair to say that you're kind of like a natural born entrepreneur, that you knew how to make money, or at least knew the concept of it?
I would say so, yeah. I'm actually in an intro to entrepreneurship class right now where the professor was asking, like, are you born that way, or can entrepreneurship be taught? And I definitely think entrepreneurship could be taught. You can take classes for it. You can have a mentor, you can take programs, but I definitely think that there's something in, you know, some people, and it just really drives them and pushes them. And I just like to do that stuff. I mean, I really can't explain it. It's just something that is fun and natural for me.
I mean, you can kind of think of it as a game, you know, thinking of as money as points, and whenever you sell something, you get more points, and maybe that's why you enjoy it. And I definitely do believe, like, yes, you can be a natural born entrepreneur, and as you progress as an entrepreneur, you're going to be a lot better. But if you have an epiphany in life, like I think many college students who are recent graduates, for example, they graduate with a bunch of college debt, and then they work for a job that they don't like, and they're like, hey, this really does suck because I'm in all this debt and I'm working at a job that's probably like not paying me as high as I want to, and I don't like the work. And they realize, like, hey, I got to start a side hustle and start making money on my own terms, because this is the only stable income I have. And if I have another side hustle, that's going to be like a plan B for me at least. So I think a lot of people are realizing that, okay, it's important to have another stream of income.
Definitely. Multiple streams of income are super necessary. I mean, everybody saw with COVID, a lot of people were laid off or furloughed or fired. So it's just always important to have multiple streams of income, because you really can't depend on anything except for yourself. You know, if you're running your own business, and even with that, like, that's not completely sure because you never know what could happen, but it's important to have different things set up.
Mm-hmm. So in high school, you applied for the ROTC program, right? You got in, and in college, you said when you're 19, 20 years old, you worked as a server making over $70,000 a year, right? And that's a lot for just a college student with no debt whatsoever, right?
Yeah, that was pretty good. And honestly, I lived super lavishly during that time. Like, I live in Miami, so pretty high cost of living over here, but I would go to the fanciest dinners. I would like shop for the nicest things. I really never looked at price tags that much. I just kind of got it because I knew that I could make, you know, 400 to 600 in one day anyway. So it was fine. But I made a lot of money and I spent a lot of money. And I realized that I just wasn't happy there. Like, it was a terrible management setup. The company itself, I'm not going to name it just because I don't want to like put this on air, but the way that they do things is honestly brilliant. I think that they have truly found the way to run a restaurant. Like, that thing operates like a well-oiled machine, and people actually say that they run it stricter than the military. And being in the Army, like, I would say that they don't run it better or more strictly, but they run it like it's very, very high level. It takes like a very high caliber, intense person to even work there at all, because the management, they just try to like tear you down basically, because they only want the strongest servers there and like the strongest employees there. So that being said, it was a good place to work, and that I got a lot of experience from it. I can now go anywhere in Miami that I want and say that I worked at this place and I'll get a job. And I honestly think whatever position I want, because it is like that type of place. But it was just too much for me. Like I was so depressed working there. I always had anxiety before I would go in. It would just completely ruin my day. Even if I had to work at 5 or 6, at 10 in the morning, I'd be like, oh my God, I have to work today. What am I going to do? So it was just too much for me. And I also worked a lot and was in college, and I've always taken 6 classes, which is about 18 credits. So it's always, pretty intense. And I was just tired of it. And I finally decided one day to spontaneously quit. It was a pretty spontaneous decision. It started off like this. It was a Sunday and I had an assignment due. I think it was an essay. It was supposed to be due that evening. And I was like, if I go into work today, I was supposed to be a double. So, from 10 in the morning till 11 at night, about that. So I was like, if I go in today, there's no way I'm turning in this assignment. Like, do I just take the 0 or what do I do? And I knew that I couldn't call out or say anything because my managers were going to kill me. Like they were going to fire me anyway. So I just called, and it was an absolute terrible way to quit. I gave no notice or anything, but I justified it in my mind because they had treated me like such garbage and they had walked over me for so long. I had been there for almost 2 years, and they would just constantly do things to me, like acting like I wasn't, a loyal worker of theirs. Like I showed up every day on time. I had my makeup on. I did everything right. And they just had no respect for me. So I was like, you know what? Like, I don't owe them anything. I'm just going to quit and do what's best for me and finish up my semester. And that's what I did. My manager, when I called her and told her this, was very upset. And she actually said to me, Jade, you're calling out on a double, right? Like, how do I deserve this? Like, what did we do? And I was like, well, honestly, I've done a lot for you guys in my 2 years, and you haven't done much for me at all. So maybe if you treated me a little nicer, maybe I could come in today, but I can't. And she was pretty offended and was like, okay, bye, and hung up the phone. But that's how that happened. I quit, and it was honestly the best decision for me at the time, and I definitely don't regret it. After that, I came to realize that I did not have as much money as I should have had. I had a couple thousand in savings, but I also had card debt because I often put stuff on my credit card, even though I had the money for it. I think because I didn't want to see my money go away. I honestly can't really tell you like what the thought process was behind that. I think I was just stuck in a huge rat race. And I spent a lot of money because I made a lot of money, and I didn't really think much of it. So I had to deal with a lot of that turmoil that I had caused on myself just from my poor spending habits and like other poor habits. So yeah, I had to get all of that stuff figured out with my finances because I was like, okay, I don't have a job now. I don't have any income. Like, let me figure out what the next step is.
So was that kind of like an epiphany, like, hey, like, where's all my money? And then you realize like you weren't, financially wise or literate at that time. So you kind of shift gears and be like, hey, I got to be more on top of my stuff, my financials. And it brought you to where you are today of like really being on top of your money, right?
Yes, that is definitely one of the things. I would say that there's 2 reasons for like why I am here where I'm at today, like in my finances and just in my life. And one of those is because I quit that high paying job and I realized that I was stuck in a rat race and that I had poor spending habits. And that's why I didn't have the money that I should have. And then I also got pregnant and I ended up having a miscarriage in January.
Oh.
And that was the most difficult, trying, painful experience of my life. And it still is, but it definitely became the reason for my living. Like my thought process behind it was, for whatever reason, I wasn't able to have my baby because I wasn't ready. And now I need to do everything that I can so that I can be ready in all aspects of my life. So that really pushed me to level up in my finances and my mindset and like physically, mentally, everything. Like I just want to be in a better place so that I can be able to provide for the children that I will have.
And what did you do to learn those things? Did you listen to podcasts, read books, meditate?
Yeah.
What did you do to kind of shift your momentum?
So I started getting really into podcasts. I started listening to Dave Ramsey, and I think people are like some people are on the fence about him. Some people really like him. It just depends. I think he's great for for beginners. He does kind of have a very like set style of how things should be done financially. And I think that personal finance is extremely personal. So I think
Mm.
there's so many different ways that people can do things. But he definitely gave me like a good foundation of finances from the beginning. Then I also listened to, it's called Deeper Than Money with Chloe Elise, or So Money with Farnoosh to Robbie. And all of those are amazing. And I just think podcasts are like a really good way to get information while multitasking. You know, I can clean and then listen to a podcast, or I can even do my homework and listen to podcasts, which I know some people like that doesn't work for, but I don't mind doing it. And then I also read a lot of personal finance books and just like blogs about investing and finance.
Yeah, this is a topic that a lot of entrepreneurs and investors talk about, where their public school systems don't teach them these building blocks of personal finances, and you have to learn it for yourself on these podcasts, these financial books. And you know, it kind of does suck, because if you kind of have that financial literacy at such an early age, you can know what to do with your money and not be stuck in a rut if you do get in one.
Yeah, I actually think it's pretty funny that I'm in a corporate finance class right now, but I have never heard about a personal finance class. Like, I'm not sure if maybe my university just doesn't have it, but I've never seen a personal finance
Yeah.
class. It just like blows my mind because, like, why wouldn't we have that? You know, why wouldn't somebody teach us how to set up an IRA, or like about the basics of investing?
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
I feel like, at least in my high school, the health class was like an absolute joke. So that personal finance class would have been a good replacement, I think, you know?
Yeah. And to just talk to people from a young age about money, because like your whole life is going to revolve about around money from the time that you die. Like everybody
Mm-hmm.
needs it to survive in this day and age. Like unfortunately, you know, people would say that money is the root of all evil. I don't necessarily think that's true, because I think that if you have a good amount of money, you can do a lot of good with it. But definitely it's something that needs to be talked about. It needs to be normalized, and it's not right now. So that's just kind of like one of my aims for my social media, my Instagram, and hopefully my podcast that'll start
Mm-hmm.
soon. I really want to like normalize talking about money and like what goes into it, because
Mm-hmm.
I just know a lot of people don't do that.
I do want to touch upon like your upcoming podcast, but I need to ask this question first. So I went to a school in Boston, right? And I remember I used to go to the gym very, very early in the morning before classes and whatnot. And I remember I would see ROTC like students, you know, full gear, boots and everything, like walking out, being ready for the day extremely early. And I know it's extremely difficult to have that, because, you know, yes, you're going to get all this money from the scholarship, but you need to put in a lot of work. Can you just tell like the audience like how difficult it is to really be an ROTC Army member?
Yes, it is extremely difficult. I it's basically a full-time job. You're on call to, you know, hop on a meeting, to go help out with this and go help out with that. It's really all the time. Like you're in group chats for the ROTC program, and there are demanding things of you. It's a really good program because you can make a lot of good friends, close friends, real friends. You learn a lot of important stuff, especially if you are wanting to be an Army officer or you have a passion for that. You're going to learn everything that you need to know. But it definitely is a lot. You know, you have PT, which stands for physical training, every day. So I have PT at 6:30 in the morning, and that's for an hour. Sometimes it's earlier, sometimes it's 5:30, sometimes it's even 3:30. So that is one of the things that made it really hard while I was working at like my serving job, because I would work really late and then I would have to go into PT really early.
Mm.
And that's not even including any of my studying or doing homework or anything. So it definitely is a lot. Like I am working at another place right now part-time. And I'm really trying to keep that at part-time because like I said, like I'm trying to grow my business. I'm trying to finish up school. I'm trying to successfully do the ROTC program and, you know, put in what it deserves. But it is just a lot because along with the PT and doing that every morning at 6:30, you also have class. So that's about 2 hours where you actually, you know, have ROTC class, military science, you learn about tactics, you learn about how to be an officer, you have homework and classwork for that. And then on Thursdays is when we have our training. So either like our field training or we do some other type of training in the classroom where we just like exercise everything that we're learning. And that can start at 3 or 4 in the morning and then go until 12 or 1 in the afternoon. So that's like an all day thing right there. After you spend like 7 hours out in the field in the brutal hot Florida sun, you just want to come back and, take a ice cold bath and like that's it. But oftentimes I would have to go to work or, I have to do homework and stuff like that. So it's definitely a lot. I think that the ROTC program is awesome for anybody who wants to live that lifestyle. And if you're going for a scholarship, then, definitely like I have a full ride, so I can't really complain about anything like that. But be prepared to do a lot of work because it is.
Now, for any college students or upcoming college students who are thinking about doing it, the question may come up like, hey, am I going to have a social life? Because that's what college is about. Like, not only getting a good education, but, being social with other, like-minded people. So as an ROTC member, did you kind of have a social life in college?
I didn't, but I honestly don't know if I can speak on behalf of the entire ROTC program because I have never been one to really like go out and spend a lot of time with friends. I actually keep my circle pretty small, not because I really want to, but because like I'm honestly just so busy with everything in my life that I have no time to make friends. I really don't. And even in high school, I did dual enrollment my senior year, so I was like never even at my high school. So I'm very used to, just grinding it out, working, and missing like all social activities. So I really don't hang out with people. I really don't have a social life. I live with my boyfriend and I try and really make time to go out on dates and to do nice things. So yeah, like I'm able to have a personal life, but it's definitely limited due to everything I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. And do you like having things back to back to back, like loving that hustle and knowing that you're kind of in control because you kind of chose the ROTC program, you're doing your businesses, you're working part-time. Like, do you kind of feel content with the fact like a lot of things are back to back to back and you feel kind of, as weird as it sounds, like alive? Because if you're not doing anything, you might feel like, okay, this is boring. I feel like my life isn't up to par for what I want. But if you're always busy, you feel like kind of special because you're in constant motion.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. I've never really thought about how me being so busy makes me feel alive, but it actually does. I do feel like I have a purpose and I'm mission driven and like I'm doing things so that I can be successful in my life. And one of my friends brought up a really good point the other day, and she said pressure makes diamonds. And right now, like I have so much pressure on me that I just kind of put on myself, whether it's like what grades that I get in the class or like what my scores are in ROTC or anything like that. But I have to remember that everything that I'm doing is for a reason, and I'm going to come out so much stronger because I'm doing all of this. Like, it might not be fun for now, and I might really want to drop out and just like focus on my business. But by me doing this, I'm going to be able to get so much experience from ROTC. I'm going to have so much experience by being in the Army Reserves, and I'll just, be able to handle a lot of stress like way better because I'm putting so much stress on myself right now.
So are you kind of like your hardest critic?
Definitely. Definitely.
I think that's a good thing because you're never going to feel satisfied. Even if you have, good results, good business results, good grades, you always want more. And people might say you're too hard on yourself, but in reality, like it's kind of a mechanism to just be better. It's good to have that.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely like I would rather be like this than be like content with doing nothing or,
Yeah.
just living a regular life because I
Can't be too
definitely know
comfy.
that
Yeah.
I'm not living the normal college life, but I'm happy with what I'm doing because I know that I'm setting myself up for success.
Mm-hmm. And how did finance for fire come about?
So I had taken a copywriting course after I quit the serving job. I was like, okay, what am I going to do to make money? I had some time to figure it out because I had some savings. So I'm like, I don't really need to start working right now. Like, what should I do? And I've always loved writing. I love blogging. I love poetry. So I'm like, yeah, like I should be a copywriter. And I found this mentor on Instagram. I'm still really good friends with her now. And she was the first course that I ever invested in for myself. And I did that for a little bit. And honestly, I kind of like, I didn't really give up on it, but I kind of like shifted focus because I was like, wait a second. Like I started following a lot of people on Instagram and I was seeing, you know, how they were making money, how they were influencers, course creators, stuff like that. And it was like, I want to teach people. Like I've always loved teaching people. I think that I'm really patient. I have like a good way of explaining things. So I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And then I'm like, okay, but like, what do I teach people about? And I realized like, okay, you teach people about stuff that you've already done. So I was like, what have I already done? And at this point, I had already began investing. Like I've already studied on that and learned about that. I've already like made a great budget for myself, gotten myself out of debt. Like I've already have a good savings and a really good like financial portfolio, I guess you'd say, like from a very young age. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I should teach people about that. So I made the Instagram originally for the copywriting. And then I just like shifted that and just started talking about money, something that I've always been passionate about. And I just started giving tricks and tips on saving money, how to make some extra money and investing. And that's pretty much it. I've just ran with it ever since.
Yeah, I think that's such an important tool to have or a good resource for anyone because, you know, while you're in college, you can still make moves. You don't always have to just study and get good grades. You can still work a job like you did. You can still
Yeah.
look for that not only internships, but the ROTC program if you want to do that. There's so many ways to kind of live your life during college. Yes, you can start your own business as well.
Yeah.
There's so much opportunity. And I think for your average college student, yes, you may be very like busy with work, like homework and whatnot, but in reality, you still have a lot of downtime in your dorm to do whatever you want to do. I think there's no excuses unless you're probably, I mean, an ROTC member or a student athlete that you probably have an excuse. But if you don't have that, I think a college student can still do a lot more besides going to their classes and whatnot.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. A lot of people just do college classes and that's it. And they talk about how busy they are. And honestly, I always laugh in their face every time because I'm like, you have no idea. And I really think it is important that if you only have classes that you're focusing on, get a part-time job because it's not going to hurt you in any way. Like you are going to build resilience from that. And then you're also going to have some extra money. So why
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't you? I think that definitely working in the real world helps people so much more. And, you know, a lot of people don't even work in high school. I was one of the few people at my high school that worked a full-time job, and I actually worked two of them.
Sheesh.
And yeah, that was intense then because I also did JROTC, which wasn't as high of a commitment, but I was on basically every single team that they had, and I was captain. So I was always running around from practice to work to home to do homework to sleep to start it again. But I definitely think working in the real world, like it really helps people. It gives them job experience and it makes them also realize, hey, like I don't want to be doing this like forever. I don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
working a typical job. My first job was at BurgerFi. I was a cashier and I also worked in the kitchen. I ended up being a manager at that job at 17. I worked there for a year and became one of their best employees. So I ended up managing for 2 years until I left for college. And that was a really good experience for me to get because at 17 years old, I was managing people who are like 30. So that was cool, but it also made me realize like I do not want to be working for any companies. Like I want to work for myself. I want to be my own boss, set my own hours, and I don't want to have to work in a kitchen where it smells like burgers and grease, you know?
Yeah. So what systems are you kind of, besides you said your investment portfolio kind of making money for you passively if you're doing a long-term investment. Besides that, what systems are you kind of setting up now? I know for Finance for Fire, I think you mentioned that you might want to do a course, or that's an idea, but do you have any systems in play to kind of make another stream of income through a business?
Yeah, so I've started to make some affiliate income actually from my Instagram, just like talking about different apps or like products that I'm
Mm-hmm.
using. So that has been super motivating for me because like I'm like, wow, people are actually taking my advice. They're actually like buying what I'm saying or, you know, downloading whatever app I'm promoting. So that's been pretty pretty cool for me. And then I'm actually working with beta clients right now. I have 3 of them. So they're doing my 4-week beta program. I've designed it specifically for each one of them so that it can really be tailored to them personally. And we just work on like saving, paying off debt, and investing. That's basically it. Like, I like to also talk about mindset and money mindset, specifically, and just talk about any limiting beliefs that they have around those. And that's been going really great. Like, I was super nervous to do something like that, but I know that you have to step out of your comfort zone if you really want more. So I just started, and I'm kind of keeping it very lax right now because I don't have an official date on when I'm going to launch my actual signature program because I'm in
Hmm.
school and I'm doing all of this. Like, if I wasn't in school, I know that I would be able to focus so much more time on my program and my business, but I don't, and that's okay. So I just have to do what I can. So I'm keeping it really laxed. I actually haven't promoted my beta program at all. I've just kind of talked to people individually about it, and that's how I ended up getting my 3 clients. Um, but I'm doing that for right now. And then once I've kind of like really validated my offer and worked out all of the kinks and made everything as best I can, that's when I'm going to really launch my signature course. It's going to be called Finance for Fire Academy. And I'm sure I'll have multiple launches. So it'll be like 1.0, 2.0, stuff like that. But I'm really excited for that. And hopefully that'll be in quarter 1 of next year.
So it's exciting that you're doing multiple things, have multiple ideas with your course, and like you said, mentioned before, you're gonna start your own podcast, right?
Yes, yeah. I literally just had this conversation with my best friend 3 nights ago when I was staying in Naples. And we just stayed up late one night. And I don't even know how we started talking about it. But she's like, let's start a podcast. And I was like, yeah, we should because we are super funny together. Her and I are the bestest of friends. And we've been best friends since 7th grade. And I think that we have a lot of value that we could bring to people, and we have a lot of insight, and we're both pretty talkative. So
Hmm.
I think it would go well, and it would just be super fun doing something like that with my best friend because I know like we're not going to take it too seriously at first. We're just going to be messing around, like 2 girls hanging out. But I think it could also turn into another stream of income. So I'm excited for that as well.
Yeah, I think what podcasting right now, it's really huge, and I feel like the way we consume information, like I like to read books every once in a while, but the amount that I learn on podcasts is just crazy because when you listen to someone, that information comes in much faster when you're actually reading words on a piece of paper. And not only that, but if you're able to kind of listen closely and at like 1.5 speed or even twice the speed and retain
Yeah.
the information, it just feels like you're being uploaded to like a mainframe computer and like uploading all this information like the Matrix, and it's just crazy. And that's why I think podcast, even though it's been around for a while, it's only going to grow because we're living in the information age and we just want to consume more and more information. And I think the most efficient way to consume information is audio. And so podcast is the best form at the very moment.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm really excited to start this because I think that people who listen to podcasts are honestly like a different caliber of people. Like, usually, people who listen to podcasts are those really looking to better their lives and just like level up. And that's the
Mhm.
people who I want to work with in my business. Like, I want to work with people who are ready to make a change in their life so that they can get ahead financially and gain financial freedom. And that's also just the people that I want to be friends with. I want to hang around with people who aren't just doing one thing and just content with how they're living. Like, I always want to reach for more, and I want people around me who are doing the same.
Yeah, and not only that, but yeah, you do learn a lot from the people that you speak with, your guests. I've been like fortunate to speak like with a tons of entrepreneurs across like different industries. And yes, I'm not doing what they're doing. I mean, it doesn't interest me like of me taking actual initiative, but the amount of knowledge that I attain from those guys and the fact that they're doing it makes me realize like, hey, like if I try that, it's actually achievable because these guys are producing these results. And
Mhm.
for the average person not listening to like a podcast or that's not very into like entrepreneurship and business, they may think, hey, this is just a waste of time. Yet they haven't tried it or maybe seen case studies of people putting in that work and achieving it, right? So point is like you do meet a lot of cool people that you have on the as your guest for the show. you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. I know. I checked out your page and I've seen you do so many interviews. So I bet you've
Yeah.
learned a lot.
No, definitely. And I think the cool thing, just to kind of talk more about this topic, is that, to be honest, like I'm not like an entrepreneur, nowhere near an entrepreneur, but I just love talking about business and entrepreneurship. And it's just cool that I've been fortunate enough to talk to people who are doing very well in their life, in their respective industries. And some people that I'm very surprised that actually were down to do this podcast with me. And I think that came because of the consistency, doing a podcast almost every single day. And like I said, just to give like a background story, I think I told you before that I started in December, and then I stopped cold turkey after a month to pursue. I had like the shiny object syndrome where I wanted to pursue like different business ideas that didn't work out. And then I went back in June. I was like, I'm going to go like ham on this. And, for the past 3-4 months, like I've gained some traction, and it's crazy because people say podcast is definitely long-term, but I'm seeing something special come about because I'm meeting so many cool guys and people. It's like so many cool
Yeah.
entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's awesome, honestly. Like gain insight from so many different people and just hear what everyone has to say.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done this is my first podcast, I told you.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really done any like Instagram lives with other people or anything like that, but it's been something that I've really been wanting to get it into because I know that like talking and collaborating with other people is going to mean a lot of growth for me, like as a
Mm-hmm.
person and then as a business as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that I need to implement as well. Doing like Instagram lives or TikTok lives. Uh, I really need to be on top of that because, it's good to have these podcasts out as soon as possible. Of course, it can take a couple days or a week to put it online for everyone to listen to. But if anyone's free at the moment, they can just click on your page and see what's going on and learn from you directly, instantly.
Mhm.
So that's a
Yeah.
good way to provide value instantaneously. Um, Now going back to your long-term investments. So when did you kind of start heavily investing in the stock market, for example?
So I started really heavily investing around April and May earlier this year. I've
Okay.
always like had an idea about it because I've heard my parents talk about it, but I've only like dabbled in it. And then once I really started getting into personal finance and I started like really tending and caring for my own finances and following the debt-free community on Instagram, that's when I was like, hey, like I need to start investing. And I'd never really heard about like index funds or ETFs or anything like that, but it's actually all very simple. And I learned a lot from Instagram and the people that I follow. And then I just, opened up an account, started doing it, and I contribute every month now to either my IRA or to a brokerage account for just individual stocks or ETFs or something. And it's been going great. And I definitely know that I'm going to be able to retire so much earlier and I'm going to be able to be financially independent at a very young age. So I'm happy.
Yeah, and it's crazy, like from these podcasts and books when they talk about investing in a Roth IRA and ETFs, with this like 6, 7, 8% annual return. That if you put it, especially like if you have like an initial capital and you keep putting money in every month, that you could retire a millionaire because your compounding interest, like your principal, just grows like exponentially. And it's crazy to think that you can make $1 million over like a course of 30, 40 years. But at the end of the day, it's just math, and it's a long-term investment. And a lot of people are impatient nowadays, especially in our generation where they want to get rich quick.
Yeah.
Not saying that's bad, but you do need to have a good fundamental basis of long-term growth and long-term investments. And that's why I think the first thing that you should do after getting your rainy day fund, like say if you don't have a job or whatever, you have like a stack of cash or in a personal savings account. So whenever something bad happens, you have a safety net, right? And then
Mhm.
after that, you can put money into your Roth IRA account and build it for the long term.
Yeah, I definitely think that would be two very smart steps. Everybody needs an emergency fund because no one can predict the future and no one knows like what could happen. And then definitely a Roth IRA is a great start to being on the right track for being financially independent.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say is kind of like your overarching ambition with Finance for Fire? Do you want to create like a really huge brand, or you want to focus more on on your personal brand, or are they kind of both in line together?
Um, I think that I would like to have a pretty big brand. I want to have a big influence and have a lot of followers because I really want to teach people about financial literacy and to teach them that they don't have to continue the generational curse of living paycheck to paycheck or, not knowing how you're going to feed your family or anything. I really, really want to show people that this is possible and this is possible in a few easy steps. Like, sure, not everyone can make as much money, but it's about your spending habits that actually matter. Like, yes, like you need to try and increase your income, but either way, if you're spending more than half of it, then you know you're not doing it right. Like, you have to be
Yeah.
investing and actively saving. So I really want to show people that. And then I mentioned before the courses. I want to put out a couple different courses. I want to have one about just how to kind of like gain financial independence and the whole 9 yards, like everything from start to finish. I also want to have an investing course. And then I also in the future would like to have a Forex trading course, but that's definitely in the future because you have to do something first yourself to be able to teach about it. So I'm still in the process of, learning how to trade Forex and everything. But my boyfriend does it a lot and he's pretty great at it. And I have done it a lot as well, but I actually stopped because it is pretty time consuming and I'm really trying to put everything that I have into my own brand and my business. So I've taken a break from that because there's no way that I can do classes, ROTC, work, my business, and then Forex trading. Like,
Yeah. Too many.
there's no way. So I had to let that go. And it's been pretty sad, but my boyfriend still keeps me updated because he shows me all his trades and shows me what the market's doing. But after I graduate, I'm definitely going to pick that up again and hopefully find massive success with it. And then I can show people how to do that as well.
Definitely sounds like fun. I think when you're 17 and 18, you definitely had a good fundamental basis of money and the concept of like college debt. Now, of course, not everyone's perfect. If you were to, with the knowledge that you have right now, if you were to meet your 17, 18-year-old self before embarking in college, what would you tell yourself? Like what to do better or how to approach your next 4 years?
Yeah, just save your money, like budget and actively save every month because I started working when I was 16 and I honestly made a lot of money even back then, like for my age, because I worked a lot. And then, like I said, like I also ended up having 2 jobs in high school. So I was making like a very good amount because I was a manager and then I also was a server at a wine bar where it was pretty high end. So I made a lot of money and I spent a lot of money, the same as when I worked at the other job. So definitely just saving. And, you have to think about things that you want to save for and you have to realize why you're saving money and the importance of it. But it's something that everybody needs to do. And that's what I would tell myself back then, being super young, not having any like investment knowledge or anything like that. If I would have actually started an IRA back then and contributed to that, like as young as 16, I definitely would be in a great position even now, being almost 22. But I'm still super young, so I'm not really too worried about it. But definitely, I would just say to save your money and focus on your spending habits because I can honestly say, like back then, I was probably spending like 80% on like wants or like even like 85, 90% on wants and then the rest on needs, which is like not good. But I spent a lot of money back then and I did a lot of fun things and everything, but now I'm like that wasn't worth it.
Yeah, it's good that you learned at such an early age because just imagine you being like 30, 40 years old with a lot more responsibility and you commit that mistake. It's not like
Exactly.
it's going to be very hard to come back from that. Whereas if you make that mistake now when you're young, you kind of know what to do when you're still young. And so you can still make that initial investment and grow your portfolio.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's good to like learn and try new things out and fail. And it's really important, I think, to, like you said, like you mentioned before, work at jobs, they may suck at a restaurant, but it's a good way to like start making money and realize like, hey, like you actually don't want to do this for the rest of your life. Like that, the burger joint that you worked for, and like you said, you became a manager at 17 years old and that's really dope. But I'm pretty sure you did not want to do that for the rest of your life. And the sooner you learn that, I think you get a new perspective of life in of yourself of what you really want, you know, because people was like, hey, I'm happy just making like $10 an hour and that's it. But if you work $10 for an hour for a job that you just absolutely hate, then that kind of like, you know, something in your mind just tells you like, hey, this is not for you. You got to do something differently. If not, you're going to be miserable for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And you definitely, you know, life is way too short to be doing something that you absolutely hate. Like
Mm,
I hated my serving job that I had prior to this because it was too intense for me. Everybody was super mean and the managers were super mean and degrading and like literally disrespectful. Like it was crazy. And I was just like, I don't deserve this. I deserve more. And I think that it's super important to like move from a scarcity mindset into a growth mindset. You know, realize that you can obtain everything that you want in life. It does take work, it takes persistence, it takes drive, and it takes time. But as long as you put in the work, like you will get somewhere. You know, there's so
mm-hmm.
much information out there on ways to make extra money. When people tell me that they just have one income and you know they're not making ends meet, I'm like, okay, well, what else are you doing? Like, what else have you tried? What do you like to do? Trying to like spark some kind of ideas because there are so many unique ways to make money. You know, you can sell your clothes, like old clothes, you can sell old household items, you can do freelance work and like answer people's emails for them, you can do graphic design. There's literally so many different things that you can do. And like,
Mm-hmm.
you just have to research it. You just have to put in the time and energy to find out how to do these things, and you will be able to do them. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen too many examples of people being able to make money through like these miscellaneous random things that I just like I there's no way that you could tell me you can't do it.
Yeah. And something that really surprised me that caught me off guard was, you know, you have over 1,000 followers on Instagram, and that's a good following, right? But what's crazy is that, you know, with that following that you had, you're able to make the most of it through, you said affiliate links, making money off that, and having your beta course. And you said you had like 4 clients, right? And, you know, I think a lot of people will be like, hey, 1,000 followers isn't enough to really monetize it. I need at least 10,000. But you kind of just showed and told me and told everyone that, hey, with just over 1,000 followers, you can still make something from it.
Definitely. And I think that has motivated me because I'm like, wow, you know, when I'm at 10K, I'm definitely going to be making like a good amount of money because I've
Yeah.
already been pretty decent at it so far. I've already been able to get people into my program, get people to buy into me as a money coach. So I know that when I have a bigger following, all of that is just going to be so much more easy. And then I'm going to be able to put all of my courses and all of my work on Evergreen, which means it's going to just be around so that I can make money whether I'm working on that or not because of
Mm-hmm.
sales funnels and things like that.
Yeah. So, Jade, I don't want to take too much of your time, but is there anything that you kind of want to shout out or mention before we finish this lovely podcast episode?
Yeah, so definitely follow me on Instagram if you're not already doing that. I try and post a lot about saving money, making money, paying off debt, investing. I talk about cryptocurrency. I talk a little bit about Forex. And I just try and give you like the real insight on money. And I don't come from an extremely wealthy family. I've kind of like worked very hard to get where I'm at because I haven't had a lot of handouts or anything. And I just like, I really want to show people that it is possible. You can do anything. You can become financially free. You can build a business, whatever. I just want people to like see my journey and be
Mm-hmm.
inspired or, you know, take action to do their own thing. And you can do it. You don't have to have money as something that you're stressing about because you can implement, you know, XYZ so that you don't have to do that. And it all
Mm-hmm.
comes from being intentional. You know, you have to be intentional with your time, your energy, your money, everything, and then you'll get the results that you want. So definitely follow me on Instagram. Stay tuned for my podcast and YouTube. And that's pretty much it.
Wait, just two more things. So, where, if they want to sign up for your beta program, assuming that you're still taking in students, where can they find that, or do they have to hit you up? And when is your podcast coming out? Do you have a date?
um, okay, so podcast will be launching sometime in November, so
Okay.
next month. And then if you want to be a part of my beta program, I don't actually have like a specific link or anything. Just DM me and we can do a call and see like if you're the right fit, if I'm the right fit for you, and we'll see how we can work together.
Dope. Lovely. So Jade, once again, I really do appreciate the value that you provided for us. And I think this will be helpful for any recent college grad, or more specifically, any student, high school student going into college. So I really do appreciate that. All right.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Jade.